Hello and welcome to another edition of the One Team We Agree On. I'm Jillian.
And I'm Kyle. How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. A little disappointed,
Yeah.
but definitely it's been a fun weekend though, despite some results that we're going to talk about. But got to spend a lot of time with friends, and it's Memorial Day weekend. It's that little taste of summer. As you know, someone who's coming to the end of the school year, I
Yeah.
am anticipating summer very much. So. Summer full of soccer for sure. How about you, Kyle? How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I mean I can understand the disappointment in the weekend's results. Obviously, like you said, we're going to talk about, but we do want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to us. We always appreciate it as always, and we hope everybody's having a great Memorial Day weekend out there and it's having a safe and enjoyable time with friends and family. But yeah, I mean, this weekend, should have been better,
Yeah.
could have been better,
Hmm.
but there's still a lot of good things that there is, and I
Yes.
think that's the frustrating part of this. So we're gonna get in on it in today's show. We're gonna talk about, of course, the Philadelphia Union's 3-3 draw with Inter Miami. Um,
We're going to talk about Union 2's 1-0 loss to Inter Miami 2.
and we're also gonna share our thoughts from the Open Cup match that was on this past Wednesday. Just kind of quick recap. And talk about the draw that and their next round opponent in the quarterfinals of the U.S. Open Cup, and kind of look at this last 5 game set of the MLS regular season, see how the Union kind of fared, and what we think about the next set. So before we get started, what are we wearing today?
Because it was the Pride night last night at the match, I am wearing last year's Pride kit, which that warm-up top, which I like. I do have a picture we'll share later of this year's, which I really like. I have not purchased it yet, but I probably will at some point.
Yeah,
What are
and
you wearing, Kyle?
I'm wearing what I literally wore to covering the game
A
today.
plain black t-shirt.
Plain black t-shirt. That's what I usually wear. Um, but anyway,
I did
before
not wear this when I was covering
yeah,
the game, obviously. I
obviously.
changed.
But where can people follow us at?
So you can find us on our website, theoneteamweagreeon.com. Find our podcast wherever you get your podcasts, because we're literally everywhere. And on socials, you can find us at TOTWAG on Twitter and Blue Sky. We're at the One Team We Agree on Instagram and Facebook. And we have our YouTube channel, The One Team We Agree On. Also, you can find us individually on our socials. I'm at silly double underscore Jilly on Twitter or X, if you will, and on Instagram. And then I know I'm not the same on all of them. And then on Blue Sky, I'm at Jillian Almany. And you, Kyla, are at Coach Almany on everything. So at least you're streamlined on that.
Yeah, and again, we thankful for the interaction with all of you guys listening to the podcast, commenting, reading our articles,
Absolutely.
yeah, that we're covering, especially with Union 2. The engagement has been up, so thank you all greatly
Mhm.
again. We greatly appreciate it. But
Yeah, and please spread the word too if you enjoy our content.
yeah,
Um,
every bit helps.
it really does. And we appreciate everyone who checks it out.
Absolutely. And if we get into the show, U.S. Open Cup, it was a Keystone Clash, first time ever between Union and Pittsburgh Riverhounds.
Yeah, something we've been waiting for a while.
So yeah, I mean it was a good time. Um, Crowd I've heard everywhere from 3,000 to 2,000.
Yeah.
People from the Pittsburgh newspapers were saying, I bet you it's about four. So there's been varying conflicts of, attendance. I don't think we
Yeah.
ever got an official count.
I do have some pictures
But
of
yeah,
what the crowd looked like. I mean, it
yeah,
was pretty empty
it
looking,
was
but
pretty sparse. We will dive into that here real
yeah.
quick.
I mean, it was a Wednesday night and the weather
Weather
was
was
it.
not the
Yeah, it was
greatest.
kind of like it was kind of spritzing a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but here's the view. This was basically at the beginning of the match. And you can see like there were people in River End. It was okay, but yeah, pretty much the crowd was scattered around and it was pretty empty. We'll just say it was less than the Indy 11 game. Here's a little bit where you can see the river end more of like the people that were there.
And for people listening on the pod, again, it's just really,
Really sparse.
really sparse. So,
Yeah. I mean, that being said, it was a fun night. And
yeah,
the people that came were a lot of the, the diehard, you
yeah,
know, fans, like the people in the River End were, a lot of your regular people, the regulars that, are going to every game, really.
for
So
sure, for sure. And again, I think you're right in the fact that, it's U.S. Open Cup attendance. You see it around the league in these matches. It tends to be down. But the
Pittsburgh had a
weather,
few fans there. They had,
yeah, they did, and
they,
they traveled well. But again,
yeah.
this was a Wednesday night, and the weather wasn't great. So, you take that with a grain of salt. But
Hmm.
hey, look, Union advanced 4-1.
Yep.
Um, they got started early on. Damiani
PK.
draws a PK,
Yeah.
takes a PK.
Yeah.
On a handball that, whether or not it was, there's no VAR on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Important to note for everyone if you weren't aware, there's no VAR like in those matches.
So it's very much like MLS Next Pro. So
Yeah.
it's like there's nothing you're really going to do on that.
I thought the ref called a pretty good game though.
Yeah, she was fine.
Yeah.
I had a lot of people in the press box we were talking about. Yeah, I mean, she was very fine. I think once she was a little bit almost too strict early on, but then once she
Yeah.
kind of got her feet under herself, she kind of let the players play a little bit more and kind of the game opened up.
Yeah. I heard people last night even remarking that
But she did a
that
very
someone said like that was a master class and like I thought she did a good job. And this the reason I say this because people were saying that Drew Fisher,
yeah,
the ref for the game against Inter Miami, that he did a pretty good job. But um, some people will very much disagree with that, I think.
right.
But anyway, back to Pittsburgh game though.
But yeah, I mean, Bruno buries PK,
Yeah.
um, which, Carnell said afterwards that, you know, Ty taking that PK in Atlanta was that was kind of out of the order decision
Hmm.
just because the run that Ty's been on.
Yeah.
However, the designated PK taker is Bruno. Kind of alluded to that.
Like it was gonna be Bruno for this if the opportunity came, and it did. So
Yeah,
yeah, I do have video of that too. I don't know if you want to show
yeah,
that.
I could show that.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah. I
go
got
back up there and yeah, here it is. So this
Yep, so he buried it. And yeah, instead of saying Union, yeah, they were doing Bruno in the chant, so that was pretty good. Speaking of chants, yeah.
yeah, we won't get into those chants.
We'll just say the goalkeeper.
For Pittsburgh's name is Eric Dick,
Yeah.
who has had some MLS experience. He was at St. Louis City and Minnesota.
Yeah, so it was Rick versus Dick
Yes.
in goal.
So
And as one can imagine, the River End was
and
merciless about
yeah,
especially when he was at the River End
and he
side of
had some
things.
friends that were listening on the television. They were like, "Yeah, you guys are coming in loud and clear."
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat what was said because there were some very not family friendly things
Or
that
podcast friendly things.
yeah, I mean, so I mean
Use
it's
your
out there.
imagination,
We'll
folks.
just say those who know,
No.
yeah, I mean a variation of YSA, if you will, but
Yeah.
that's
So,
all we'll say.
so getting back to the match at
Yeah.
hand, because
I'm not gonna lie though. It was a fun mood.
I mean, when you saw the Pittsburgh reporters even chuckling at it, you knew it was a good time.
Yeah. Anyway.
And who, by the way, shout out to both of them. Fantastic people. The person from the Riverhounds comms department, I think head of the comms, um, who I need to get back to,
Hmm.
phenomenal person. Had a great conversation with him. Shout out to everybody from the Pittsburgh area that came to cover that game. That's awesome. You love to see that.
Hmm.
But after that goal was back and forth.
Hmm.
Sure, you probably could have scored a couple more goals.
Hmm.
Having said that, right before the half, nice ball into Indy, who slides behind the defender. kind of shoots right at the keeper, but
Mm.
because of the trajectory of the shot, it kind of deflects, bounces in. Indy kind of like collides with him.
Yeah.
It was like one of those like I don't know. It was just a crashing net,
Yep.
and that's what Indy does. He hustles.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Union go up 2-0 at half. So you're thinking, okay, here we go. It's gonna be good. Second half starts. Second half starts, and Pittsburgh's pressing to get back within one.
Mm-hmm.
There's that play down the left side of the pitch. Bizo kind of is not pressing up like he normally does. He's kind of backing
Mm-hmm.
off. And um, Villanova grad, believe it or not, Jorge Garcia, you know, just kind of cuts in on Bizo,
Mm-hmm.
wide open, hits a banger of a shot. Like, sure, Rick, maybe I heard somebody say, well, his positioning was off. Okay, that was a shot where you're like, okay, that's a really good shot. There's no way that's going to test some of the best keepers in MLS.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob Lilly even said afterwards, I saw some of his presser, that's what he's done all preseason. So credit to the local Philly kid, gets a goal in Philly. Um, well, so, Villanova grad gets a goal in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking, oh, well, okay, it's 2-1 now. And then Riverhounds come down again and almost have another chance. Rick
Mm-hmm.
saves the day there, and you're like, oh, this game, are we going to have another Indy 11 where the game kind of just stretches? But then, no, as the half move on, Daly John Jock buries a goal, and then Yvonne Lukic right at the end there kind of just he's literally standing there kind of dancing around like what's he gonna do? Just shoots it and
Yeah.
that beats Dick. Um yeah, Jilly knows the chant. Anyway, Union advance, and what was your thoughts on the game overall?
I thought that honestly, it was a pretty good showing by them. They did what they needed to do against them. I also want to note that you had Cavan and Quinn both start.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was very notable. And, they had that one play I thought that was great where they kind of went back and forth. They passed
Yeah,
much of
well, they
some,
actually set up that goal there at the end.
yeah, they set up that goal. So like,
I mean, I mean, the familiarity there.
yeah, it's just like it was really awesome to see. Like it was a treat. So, that was cool to see the two of them. And I know Quinn talked about that post game a bit, and so happy for them to have that opportunity.
No, for sure. I thought it was a good match. You do what they needed to do. It wasn't always pretty, but you know, good teams keep moving on. So,
Exactly.
next day on Thursday, um, league drawing for the quarterfinals, and basically the priority for the rest of the tournament was set. And lo and behold, you can get another rival in.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't call Pittsburgh Riverhounds a rival, but they get I would say, MLS rival in
Yeah.
New York Red Bull.
Yes. And funny enough, of course, they're going to be playing them twice that week,
Yes,
basically.
yes. So they'll be playing them probably Wednesday, Tuesday or Wednesday, and then they'll play them again Saturday. So the Red Bulls will have to travel to Chester twice that week.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, I'm happy to see Union Red Bulls always a exciting match
Yeah.
in U.S. Open Cup. So you can't do that. Now, if the Union do advance, they're no longer be home. That's it. That's it
Yeah.
for them.
Either way, this is the last Open Cup match that's
Yeah,
going to be
because
for
they're like
them.
low on the priority. They will then go to advance to play the winner of Nashville and DC.
Hmm.
Obviously, if you really are wanting to see the Union go on a good path to run, you obviously want to see DC.
Just the fans will be able to travel there better.
Yes, and I think you would see some good fans support for that,
Yeah, for sure.
especially in semis. And then should the Union advance beyond that, they would then head and play on the road to whoever the west part of the bracket is, and that's Minnesota, Austin, San Jose, and Chicago.
Yeah.
But I think overall, Union have a good chance to make a deep run, and that's really what you want.
Yeah.
I mean,
They got to go
fans
for it.
fans have wanted the cup back. You're seeing the Union now, the quarterfinals. I said that my benchmark for the Union in this tournament was the quarterfinals. So they're there. So they reached my benchmark. So anything after this is icing on the cake, as far as I'm concerned. Um, I know for Cardinal, the latest he's gotten when he was in St. Louis City was to the quarterfinals. So we'll see if he can extend, the deepest run he's been on in the U.S. Open Cup as well. And just one little bit of news before we get into it. Quinn Sullivan got called up for the first time.
Yes.
So
Yep.
Cardinal talked about it. I mean, the season he's had, and just, he leads the team in assists.
Hmm.
He
He's
now has,
tied for like second or third
yeah,
in assists in MLS.
he has now 2 goals on the season after last night. He's just having a remarkable season. He's taking those next steps, and you love to see that. And he'll join some fellow Union teammates in Mark McKenzie,
Yeah.
Matt
Jack McGlynn.
Freeze, Jack McGlynn, Brandon Aronson. So there's, I saw people saying, "Oh, well, Paxton was snubbed." Uh, you know, sure. Every camp somebody's snubbed.
Well, last year people were saying that Quinn was snubbed, so now it's
Yeah.
his turn to, be
So
there
I'm
and
kind of
well
excited.
deserved.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see what he can do with this opportunity.
Right. I feel like he's been super determined to get to that place. So, all right, now he's
He
there.
was snubbed from the Olympic side last year, so
Mhm.
now this is his opportunity to show what he can do. His brother, obviously, Kevin's going to go with the U17s
Yep.
to their camp.
Yep.
So is Jameer.
Yep.
Jameer's going. So good opportunity for those young guys.
I
And
know
now,
Malik's right. He's already like down in Argentina right now, Malik and Tyler
yeah,
Glasson. Like there's a whole bunch of youth players that are
yeah. And I'm sure we're going to find out more this week.
the U18s are gonna be
And then,
insane.
even last night in the presser, the one guy that kind of covers Haiti,
Hmm.
he was kind of talking about Danley, and Bradley pretty much confirmed that Danley's going to be
I mean,
going.
Danley's been playing out of his mind, honestly. Like
I mean, we
he's
can
so
have that
good.
conversation for another time,
Yeah.
but I know Jose and Ty have talked about it.
Hmm.
Th- There's a real good world with some of these European teams that are moving up, especially like, you know, Paris goes up. They need somebody that has experience
Hmm.
in League One.
Hmm.
Hey, Union, we'll give you X amount of dollars. Obviously, Union will be like, hey, you got to pay for them.
Yeah.
But think about that. I mean, fans are going to say, oh my gosh, we're giving up more players when we're at the top of the table. And I get that.
Yeah.
It is from that aspect.
Like you get people especially that maybe are used to like, okay, like in baseball, your team's doing well. You're not a seller, you're a buyer. You're bringing in players.
But I will
But
argue that if somebody gives me $7,000
set
for Danley Jean-Jacques,
$7,000, Kyle.
$7 million.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, 7,000. No, I'm saying take
I
them
mean, I
all.
know the Union are cheap at times, but my goodness.
Hey.
You know.
But no, $7 million, I mean, I'm sorry, Daly, but you're going back to
Yeah,
France.
but what a pickup he's
Yes.
been. Oh my goodness. Like Ernst definitely hit on that one. So it's great to see.
I'm
So
going to argue right now. I think Ernest's offseason moves have really panned up. But
yeah.
yeah, another topic for another time. Hey, let's get into the
Hmm.
match that, okay,
Union versus Intermessi.
yes, it was a night of
Theatrics.
theatrics.
Hmm.
But before that, we got there early.
Yes.
We were hanging out. We went with our good friend Dave, who's a fellow swim coach, lives in Westchester. We were hanging out. We saw Mike. We saw Elvia. We saw a lot of our
Yeah.
friends. We were just chatting the whole night.
Yeah. Good
Uh,
turnout at tailgates and Union Yards. Like the place
yeah,
was
it was
well been.
bumping,
Yeah, it
and
was.
we were hanging out just before game, talking to people.
Of course, there was a lot of pink coming through. A lot of people. You see parents in Union stuff with their kids that are wearing Miami stuff, and it's interesting. But
It
no,
was.
um,
Oh, go back to
yeah,
that was a really nice.
yeah. So
It
there's
was
a
a nice
crowd of
crowd. I was walking,
there.
Dave and I were walking around talking to people in the parking lot, went over Union Yards, chatting with people. It was good interactions with everybody. We talked to, and it was a good vibe.
It really
I
was.
mean, people were excited. It wasn't like, oh no, yeah, this is gonna get really bad really quick. It was like, hey, you got a real shot.
Yeah, and from we were not at the 2023 match where Messi played, and we'd only heard about it, of course. And from what I heard, this was way less crazy, as in there weren't all the crazy amount of Messi fans. There were people there for sure, but not like people parking on the bridge and everything. But funny, of course, you have all the vendors that come with all their like Messi jerseys and stuff.
Yeah,
And some guy was laying out jerseys on like each uh
that was
plank
in 2023.
on the train tracks.
Yeah, that was
Oh, I thought
2023.
you were saying that was
No, no,
no. So we didn't see anyone doing that this time.
no.
But
But it was also Pride Day,
yes.
and so they had a little vendor stand with all local. Um,
Yeah, they had like face painting and some different things.
yeah, and it was nice.
Hmm.
We took some pictures. They had some,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
they were doing some art and
vendor.
there was some,
That's really nice. I like
yeah,
that. That was really well
soccer
done.
ball that had that. And then here's Union Yard. So this was during Chalk Talk with Dave Leno and Sage Hurley. And the place was packed. It didn't, and it got especially packed because it started to drizzle a little bit too. So people really pushed in, but it was packed. Good
Yeah,
crowd there for their Chalk Talk. And, um,
yeah,
and then yeah, so I just like kind of pan around and you can see that there. And then
and then here was the Pride Top.
yeah, and the lines by the way to get in, like people were by the way like lined up like crazy before they opened up the gates.
Yeah, I posted on my Twitter.
Yeah.
I came up steps and Todd was taking a picture and he was like, "Look at this," and then we were looking out and it was like literally. I showed you the day when we went for a second team where
Yeah.
it was. It was backed up to the training fields.
Yeah. So anyway, I did go in the Union Shop briefly. They had the Pride tops, which I like, and talking to some people, as well about it, they really liked it. It's a fun pattern. And like I said, I'll probably get it at some point. I believe it's $80 though. So I've paid less than that for a you know for a English team's jersey to be shipped from England before. So again, I might wait till that goes on sale, but that was pretty much the only new stuff I saw in the store.
Oh, and one other thing before we talk about the match, I do want to show is it was a beautiful
It
afternoon.
really was. Here's a shot from when they were getting ready to start the match. This was right around when they were going to do the drum striker. So the stands were pretty packed
Yeah,
early. So it turned out to be a really nice day because it was kind of iffy weather-wise earlier in the day, but it got really nice out.
yeah.
And there's another shot of just I have a few shots here from the opening. They did the
Mm.
yeah, just some yeah, they just did the flags and things there.
Yeah.
So,
So, uh, match thoughts. I want to talk about the first half. Energy was good. Cooper Jean
Cooper
comes
Jean
out,
bang the
can't
drum.
bang the drums,
It was
got the
great.
crowd into it. Obviously, when they announced Messi, an interesting thing, and this is something that maybe not today, but down the road I want to talk about because it's like the effect of
Hmm.
these fans that go to Messi games because of Messi. He's a world class, probably one if not the greatest players. We've talked
Hmm.
about this. During the announcement, when they were announcing in Miami, you'd think like those fans would chant or like cheer, chant, whatever.
Hmm.
No, like they announced like just one player, and we didn't hear anything. All you hear was the river end.
River End, doing the usual
Yeah.
sucks at each player.
And even like with like Alba and stuff like that, you didn't really hear much.
All you
And
hear is River End being even louder with their
yeah,
sucks.
yes. But then they get to Messi, and it was, yeah, you can hear some people being like, yeah, but you heard it was like this, it was just like the booze out.
The boos outweighed the cheers. In fact,
And then we heard in 2023 there was the same thing that the booze outweighed the
yeah,
cheers.
yeah, and that was like the most emphatic sucks I heard
Well,
from the River End
Pablo
there.
Maurer even
Yes,
said, he goes, what did he say? Some of the effect that Philadelphia's one town
shows
like
like the least reverence
is
for Messi.
yes, and that's Philly being Philly.
Yeah, love it. You love to see.
So you love to see it. I thought after, but what I'm getting to is outside Messi, there really wasn't much reaction from most of the people
No,
that were in Inter Miami stuff. So what does that tell you? Well, they just follow Inter Miami.
I didn't see it. Yeah.
So when Messi says bye bye,
Yep.
where are these fans going to be?
Yeah, I didn't see a single Miami jersey for anyone other than Messi.
I saw a couple in front of the press, but
Yeah.
anyway, the first half, as I said in press box, that was a statement first half.
Right out the gate,
Excuse
Union.
me. Union come out the gate just hitting the gas pedal, trying to get an opening goal. They get it early from Quinn Sullivan, who beats you're sorry,
Hmm.
and Union are up 1-0. Place erupts
Yeah.
when he sort of
Seventh
like
minute when Quinn
the
scores.
seventh minute, and the Union are off and running. And balls going into Messi. Rick made a save on Messi,
Hmm.
and the Union are just controlling. Now, as a set half, like probably about 20 minutes in, Miami slowed it down and tried
Hmm.
to play their game a little bit, and you can see the chances starting to come.
Yeah.
But it was really unique that the Union were not phased.
No.
And I thought this was a better start than the match they had at Fort Lauderdale.
Yes.
And also, you kept looking. There were times like opportunities, and this is the negative part, where you really felt like they could have gotten another goal or two in that first half.
Yeah, to be blunt, watching that first half, it was kind of like the opposite of the Galaxy game
Yeah.
where they came out in the second half playing their game really well. But like looking at people, it's like the Union really were playing like a team that had belief. They were confident. They were confident they were the better team on the field there and that they were going to come out and make a statement. And honestly, they were making Miami look like buns, you know?
And look, Miami has world-class talent,
They do.
but they also do not have great defense, and they're not
Mm-mm.
the Miami of 2 years ago or even a year ago.
They make mistakes.
They make mistakes. They've given up now 18 goals in 6 matches. You're not going to go very far giving up 3 goals. You can score a lot, but
Yep.
come the playoff time and you're going into that Club World Cup, what are you going to do? You're
Hmm.
going against some really good teams. So,
Yeah.
um, I wish I made a bold prediction. I think Sounders are maybe do better in the tournament. We'll see. Than Inter Miami, although Inter
Hmm.
Miami doesn't have exactly the hardest bracket per
Hmm.
se, compared to Seattle has a very difficult bracket. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Right before half, and he flicks on the ball. Mikel has a hustle play. And again, we've said this a million times. It's just the things he's doing off the ball, the hustle of that ball, to flick it on, to win it
Hmm.
back, flicks it in. Tabaruba's right there, puts it back in the net, and you're just looking there going, okay, we're up 2-0.
And
And and and
you went through my
and
head.
everybody in the back there, no, it was going through everybody's head, but you're up 2-0. That's why I tweeted out, look, that was a statement half.
Yeah.
But you knew my Inter Miami is going to come out with fire in their eyes, trying to get that early goal
Uh-huh.
and make this a game.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did in the second half. But back to the first, if the Union, and we'll share some um, comments here going back to that coming up. If the Union can find a way to do this consistently, that's where you're kind of starting to see, okay, this team can truly be special. I'm not saying they can't. I'm saying if they could just start doing this a little bit more consistently, and I'm not talking about the one-off Wednesday night road game where they lose 2-1 or 3-1, and
Yeah.
it is what it is, or like the random game where they're just off. That's soccer. I'm talking about if they can play like that consistently with that intensity and that belief,
Hmm.
you see the qual you can see what this team does.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember after the second goal, turning to our friend Jane and saying, the Union need a third goal. They need a third goal because number one, we all know what they say about 2-0 leads.
Oh yeah.
And, it's a dangerous free kick away from that being tied up, which spoiler alert.
Yes, it was.
And you know that we've seen too many times Messi, he's like Thanos, he's inevitable. And if he gets a free kick chance or he gets, you know, he pushes up there and gets a chance, yeah, that's gonna be tough. They do this, they come back. So, uh, I was like, we need a third goal. Now, of course, the Union do get that third goal, which is a good thing they did, but it just, first of all, it was great to see Ty getting yet another goal.
Well, before we get to that,
Yes.
I want to go back to something.
Okay.
And you're right. It was great to see Ty get that goal in the second half. But I want to talk about something a little bit. We're getting ahead of here because I want to talk about that beginning of that second half.
Yeah.
You come out and you already see Inter Miami is coming, bring more pressure forward.
Hmm.
They're trying to get that goal.
Right.
And they get it. A ball through finds
Hi, Andy.
Alande, and you get caught looking at the ball. He beats Rick, and you're like, I
Hmm.
remember looking at both of them. I'm like, oh, this ain't over. And now you're like, oh, okay.
Yep.
And that's where even talking to Dave Valeno at the end, you could see the Union were pressing. They came out confident, but you could then see it was like that doubt creeping in a
Hmm.
little bit because we saw it in
It's like,
2022. We've seen it in 2023. We saw it last year. There's still players here. Now, this is a whole different team,
yeah.
but there is a natural ability that when you give up that early goal, now you're going to play tense because you don't want to lose.
Especially against a team like Miami with those weapons
So
that they have.
I want to play this. This is Cardinal just kind of talking a little bit about that, kind of when you get to that point in the match.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I think if Messi starts drifting towards a left back or a right back.
now, two contexts here. The question was about the center backs checking,
Yeah.
who outside of a few plays, I thought both Macania and Glasses were solid on the night.
Yeah. I thought so too.
I mean, especially in that first half, I even made the comment in the press box that, hey, it was that elbow. Remember the elbow from Messi on Macania?
Yeah.
Macania wanted revenge, and he came
Yes,
out.
he did.
He did, and
It's
I'm
funny. I said that comment too. I said to Fred, I said there was the one play. There was a play where Macania beat Messi on something, or
and yeah, like
and I was like, Macania's probably like, "Oh hey, remember me?"
yeah, but it's funny.
Yeah,
But so he's talking about their play.
yeah,
Position, I think they've done their job pretty well, and I think we've seen that over the night. And yeah, I thought they were pretty good. With their space defending, I think Allende gets in behind once, but other than that, we mitigated balls in behind. I think Kai and Nate did a great job. Yeah, the one moment we give away the free kick, everyone holds their breath and hopes it doesn't. And we've seen it a million times that we get penalized for that. And then they start with a bit more belief, and obviously a little bit of panic and doubt and fear maybe creeps into the mind of the boys, which is also totally natural. So again, to then bounce back to have two chances at the end there, again, they took theirs, we didn't.
And that's the point.
yeah. It's
That's
well said there.
that's the second half in a nutshell.
Hmm.
Because they doubt and creep. It is. It's human nature, and I'm not trying to excuse it. But you could see them tense up. I even tweet out like
Yeah.
you could see it tensing up. They were becoming more. They weren't playing as fluid and as loose. They were trying to do too much, and you know,
Hmm.
Glesnes gives up that it's a foul,
Yeah.
way outside dangerous spot. Rick reads it right, gets a
Yeah.
hand on it, but I mean, it's a world-class goal for
I mean,
Messi.
the way it
Because
just
when he hit it,
bent,
when
like
we hit it, we're both like, oh, that's such a nice goal.
what
But
from my angle too, I could just see that bend in it, like that spin on it.
but going out before that,
Yeah.
Ty Peribo comes in again
Yeah.
and gets that third goal,
Third
and you're
goal.
like, in the
Okay,
72th
3-1.
minute, and
Okay.
it's up 3-1, you're like, 72th minute, come on. This is your best opportunity. But going back to what Carnell just said there, 70 Messi hits that goal. Union have a chance late.
Mm-hmm.
There's the ball in the box where Brebo should have buried it for a hat trick. And
Yep.
imagine that. We're
Ugh.
talking about
A
we're
game of
try,
inches.
yeah. Ooh, excuse me, a little
Gesundheit.
sneeze there. Um, you have that, and think about it. Revisionist history. We could be talking about, hey, Union win, Brebo with a hat trick against Messi. That, I
That would
mean,
have been beautiful.
that's one of those what if episodes.
It is a what
What
if
if
episode.
episode? It is,
Uh,
but there's also the shot that hits the crossbar. There's two other shots.
yeah, there were chances.
And then in stoppage time, Segovia, who people listening to the show know I'm very high on as a player, as somebody that covers the team, and the league. I think he's phenomenal world.
Meanwhile, a lot of those Miami fans probably don't even
You
know who
know
he
who he
is.
is. Having said that, beats Rick, game's tied, and everybody's just got the sinking feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Game whistle blows, and it's like that's game, and now you're like, oh. But again, it's they made their chances, Union did. And
Yep.
now you could go and say, well, the Union now have dropped two games,
Yeah.
4 points total in 90 plus games at home in the month of May
Yeah.
against quality teams.
It kind of
They've
ripped open that wound from Columbus.
and they haven't beat Nashville, who currently is in fourth. So there's the only team they've had a result on is Cincinnati this year at home. And that one was when Cincinnati was rotating for Champions Cup. So really, the Union are so close to doing something, being there. And I was talking with Evan today, and
Hmm.
he's like, "Oh, they're fine," and they are. They are fine. People listening here, they are fine. They're a
Hmm.
very good team,
Yeah.
but there's something from being very good to being elite and having world class, and that's quality.
Yeah.
Todd said to me as we're walking down the press room, quality. They're missing that one piece, and hopefully they get in the summer.
Yeah.
Even Dave Lamb said that to me, and I agree with that. But I just think they also need to find that belief that when they get to those close games late, you saw it against, and I'll share the quote with Quinn. He said, "Well, we did it with LA Galaxy. LA Galaxy's last in the league."
Yeah. LA
So
Galaxy still didn't win, by the way.
yeah,
Oh my goodness.
so that's the thing that you gotta remember.
I think, side note, you know, remember how Nick Sirianni shaved his head
Yeah.
and Bryce Harper shaved his head and they like after they did those things, they went on a tear. I think like Mikel Ua or somebody should shave their head because Mikel's kind of snake bitten. I think yeah, he should do that. No, but seriously, getting this
But
is there's a lot of learning experiences here and they okay. So they can take what they learned here against a very good opponent who was struggling a little bit, but still Miami's a very dangerous opponent and there were lessons we learned. Now we'll see where they go from here.
so I want to talk about that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Erica. Yeah, good evening, everybody. Yeah, after a great start to the game, Quinny scores a worldie of a goal. And we dominate in many ways, and then also allow an opponent who's on paper, has the world-class quality, and we allow them at certain points to get back in the game. So, it's a game where, if we take our chances, I think the scoreline's even bigger in our favor than the 3-1 would have indicated. And then, they get two chances late, take two of theirs. We get two chances late, we don't take two of ours. And unfortunately, the game ends 3-3 because, you never quite shut them down for 90 minutes. So, we look at games against Columbus and Miami and we think back and say, hey, this is a great draw. No, we've set standards for ourselves, and these feel disappointing. And I'm proud of the group that we get to this moment that we're disappointed at this result. So it's good experiences for us, and we need to learn how to close out games. And this is part of our process with the young group that we have. Thank you.
And that's right there is key. I mean, I
Yep.
can't say it any better. The question I would have for Bradley is how do you get to close out those games? How do you teach this young team?
Yep.
has veterans in this to close out those games. That's going to be the next step. That's the next evolution outside of the quality.
Yep.
We can talk about quality all we want. We know the different types. Miami spends money. They have world-class players. Union, build from the academy. It is what it is.
Yep. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
both sides work. So, anyway, again, you see that little trend here right now in May. Drop points against Columbus. Drop points late against that. And now, because of that, Vancouver leapfrogs up in the Shield standing.
Yep.
Um, at the time of this recording,
Atlanta's winning 2-0
at halftime.
2-0 at
So
halftime against
we'll
Cincy.
we'll see what happens there. But at the time of this recording,
Mhm.
Union could still, and this is the crazy part, end up at the end of the week
Mhm.
on top of these. But again, is it like the Charlotte game last year that we're looking back and saying, hey, remember those two games in May
Oh, in
that, yeah,
2022, when that
Charlotte game.
there are multiple games where there was points dropped. If the Union would have gotten one more point on the season, they would have hosted the MLS Cup, and
Who knows what
there
will
you
happen.
go.
But we don't live in the past.
Yeah.
Um, and
Until the Union wins something, it's that is going to live rent free in our heads a little bit. But just like the 2022 Super Bowl loss was living in people's heads until, well, winning Super Bowl this year made that go away. So,
so I want
no,
to share
right there.
this quote here.
Yeah. So we got Quinn Sullivan
Yeah,
here.
it talks about that.
Everyone feels the same way. Yeah.
I mean, when you see, the Columbus result and now this result, how close is this team to potentially, taking that next step and finishing off those kind of matches?
Yeah, I think you've seen us do it, right? We've done it in games, and it's just, the consistency of it is the necessity and the standard that we need to hold ourselves to. And I know we hold ourselves to that standard, and, we'll work to get better, and we'll watch the film and see different ways for us to, improve in the final moments of games. But yeah, look, we've done it. You've seen us do it. This is why we're at the top of the table. But still, we have to do it more consistently.
And the only thing I would add to that is they need to do it against the best teams in the league. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know people listening are probably feeling the same way as we are. Having said that, I think you can also say, if you were gone into this match saying you didn't get a point out of this, most people you talk to would be fine with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It just, once again, just like with the Columbus match, we said the same thing. However, when they're up 3-1 and they drop those 2 points, then it's like, oh, this is a draw that feels like a loss. It just kind of knocked the wind out of you at the end.
I
It was
think
just that feeling.
I think we need to start having that thought process as not you need to start looking at this team as they can do special things.
They can.
They can. And you need to stop saying, well, they could just get a point. And I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just saying I feel like we don't need to get way too far ahead of ourselves, but we're seeing that quality this year.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. So
Way more quality than a lot of people were
there is that
thinking.
belief. And I think I want to share a well with through Makanya's comments because he kind of touches a little bit on it. So, there. I actually want to share that screen. It would help if I share this screen. But anyway, no, because he brings a very good point about belief and just learning, just kind of like what Quinn shared here. Let me go in here. That's the right screen. Sorry, pushed the wrong screen here. All right, so here we go.
Kind of game. So like I'm saying, we're just learning from every game. So we're gonna go back to the drawing boards, learn from our mistakes and then just focus on the next one.
Everyone feels the same way.
So I mean, here, let me just play that one more time.
Now we know what to expect, from these kind of games. So like I'm saying, we're just learning from every game. So we're gonna go back to the drawing boards, learn from our mistakes, and then just focus on the next one.
That everyone.
And that's really what I want to talk about because he kind of talks about that like, look, we learn, we go
Yes.
forward.
Yep. Absolutely.
And even prior to that, he was talking about there's still belief here.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, so anyway, but again, they have already 11 points in May.
Mm-hmm.
They have now surpassed 2020, 30 points in 15 games, which is the greatest time. So, Ty Baribo, 13 goals in 15
Leading
games.
Golden Boot by several goals.
Yeah, there's a lot to be happy about here too, folks. It's gut-wrenching,
Yeah.
but in my opinion, I I have a hard time saying that, like Quinn said, they have shown that they can come back in games.
Yes.
They just good.
Yeah, let's pump the brakes a little bit on the sky is falling because you
And
know,
I don't know if anybody's saying the
no,
sky is
no. I
falling.
think it's more of, oh, there's negativity. Like people are just disappointed. People are bummed. There's just so much. It is. It was so much hype leading into this game, and I think the fact that the Union
We're up 3 to
looked
1 and steady
fantastic
improvement.
that first half,
And
and you
even
really think, oh man, this is gonna be a whooping maybe on them, and so I think it just kind of was like just a punch to the gut a little bit, like just took the wind out of the sails there. But it's like, ah, it just kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth.
yeah,
I think so. And talking with people at Union Yards last night, they put it in perspective. It's like, listen, I'm not mad. I'm disappointed, but it's like there's a lot of good to take from this too.
yeah,
And you have 19-year-old keeper Andrew Rick holding his own. Yeah, I mean, he got a hand on the ball. Maybe he should have saved, one or two of
but
those. But like,
yeah,
but honestly, there's a lot to be happy about. I think Danley's been fantastic. I think Ty's been fantastic. And the other guys are really stepping it up. So Quinn has been fantastic. And Bradley's doing a good job of subbing players, which has made a huge difference.
and it
And
kept players fresh.
yeah, I thought, you know, Choo Choo, he finally is getting some playing time lately. Bueno, he's been again real strong when he's on the field. And honestly, there's a lot to be pleased about, but not satisfied.
And that's a good thing. That's the first fit. So last thing, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Union 2, is I want to just share about the Union's last 5 matches. We shared my season predictions, and we'll go back and share that real quick. I had a projection of 5 points for this month, and Union are at 11. So we talk about perspectives.
Yes.
Um, Look, this month Union have not, these last 5 games, win at Montreal, draw against, both the draws are disappointing, but those are draws, you kind of saw coming in the season. Win in Atlanta, first time ever.
Yes. That
Uh,
was huge.
Again, win in Montreal, kind of a really scrappy win.
Right. Where there's been points dropped, the Union are also picking up points where maybe it wasn't as expected.
Right. And then
So,
you're also mitigating 2 tournaments during that run.
yeah.
And so at the end of this, you come away with 11 points at 30, and they're at 30 points. I said I'd love to see 11-point May
Yeah.
back in right before we were heading into May and April. I said, let's see 11 points this month.
Yeah.
We're at 11 points now.
Yeah. And I know you have the next two matches at Toronto and at Dallas being losses, but you never know.
You never know with this team
Yeah, if
because
they can come away with at least a draw.
this is my least positive month because now you got Toronto this next 5 games. You got Toronto, Dallas, Charlotte at home,
Hmm.
and then you're back on the road. So the next 5 games you only have one home game.
Yeah. So,
And
and I
and
want to
and
say,
you run that end up with Columbus.
yeah, and I want to say credit to Carnell for managing the minutes pretty well and
Yeah.
rotate players and them still getting the job done with the Open Cup and their MLS matches. So, I mean, kudos to him and the staff there because they've done a pretty good job of that, I'd say.
Hey, we'll see what they do next this coming week. But
Hmm.
I mean, while it's frustrating, there's a lot to be excited for.
Yeah.
So let's go in and talk about Union 2.
Yeah, so we were down at Subaru Park today for Union 2 versus Inter Miami 2. And of course, beautiful day. And you have, after the, like I said, the theatrics of last night. Okay, so Union 2 then are taking on Inter Miami 2, who were in 12th place at the time,
Hmm.
have terrible goal differential and worst in the Eastern Conference, actually. And but the thing is, it's like, yeah, we also saw Columbus Crew too, who were bottom feeders, and the only loss that Chattanooga had gotten at the time, and I think that's still the only loss.
That is the only loss they have.
You had them take down Chattanooga. So it's really how teams match up and how play goes that day. And we saw that today as Inter Miami handed Union 2 their first loss of the season. U2 was the last unbeaten team in Next Pro. So they lose 1-0.
And shout outs to USL side St. Louis City, who is now the only undefeated professional club in America. Yes, it was between Union and St. Louis City were the last two undefeated teams.
St. Louis City, like the
I
MLS.
mean, no, Louisville City. Sorry.
Louisville City. I was
No,
gonna say, I'm
sorry,
like,
St. Louis
to
City.
say no one in Next Pro was undefeated, and then
No,
like
no,
no one in
no,
MLS, I
no,
don't think was either.
Louisville
So
City and USL.
okay,
Sorry
okay.
about that, folks. But yeah,
Wow. So that's something.
yeah, it is.
And here's the thing about this. So Union 2 go into this sitting in fifth place. They've had so much starting and stopping and all these breaks, and I know Ryan Richter said that's kind of a challenge just trying to keep them in form. That's why they played that friendly against Nor'easters, but they had only 7 games played. You have, look at fourth place, NYCFC 2 has 12 games played, and all the teams ahead of them have at least 2 more games on Union 2 going to this. So you look at that and it's like, okay, well, if Union 2 can get some results in these games come up, they could really, move up in there. They do have several games in hand. So there's that, and the fact that they're in fifth. Okay. So you look at this and Inter Miami too, they Ryan Richter talked about it. They play much like the first team when it
They
comes to their
very
attack
similar.
and everything and with their defending. So they on paper you look like, okay, this could be a real good game here. Union 2 should hopefully come away with a home win. But as we know, they didn't. And they did look like the better team in the first half. They
Hmm.
definitely had more shots. I think by the end of the first half, it was like 8 shots
To one.
to one. And of course, the one shot that Inter Miami gets is
Is a
a
goal
goal.
that's on a weird play
It's a
where
weird
there's a
play.
little like deflection. I like looked up, I saw like kind of like a bump, and then the guy from your mind flicks it up, like almost just kind of punts it and gets like it long ball
Yeah.
right over
Zemel
top.
gets beat.
And Zemma gets beat, and it was just kind of like an ugly, like, what was that? Like even
Yeah, it's
Zemma
just
was
like
like,
what?
what are you doing all this?
Yeah, and
It
also
was it was just
yeah.
like, ugh.
And also to note the starting lineup, there was definitely some shakeup there.
Yeah.
You had Cavan and CJ were on the bench. They did
Yeah.
not start. Yeah, Jordan Griffin making his first start with Union 2, so that was good for him.
And
Neil Pierre was not back.
neither was Isaiah LaFleur, who we did talk to Ryan afterwards, and he did say that, it was a little injury. And I asked him, is that anything to do with last year's injury or like, something
Yeah.
that led up? And he goes, no, 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 it's just completely separate.
No, and Stas is still coming back from a hamstring irritation, as Ryan had said. So I know Neil Richter had said earlier in the week when you went down to training that he was out training and he's on his way back, and that if he wasn't ready for the match today, that it'd be really soon. So you can definitely feel like Neil's missing from that. He's so good at his defending, his distribution. He's been really good at that. But the lineup was changed up a bit. You had Eddie. Well, first of all, you have Eddie and Sal up top, and then Marcus is playing it kind of like a 10,
Hmm.
right? So you have Henry Bernstein in there. He's been doing a pretty good job. And the big thing where you have the shakeup is the back line. So instead of Nick Pariano playing more of his natural position in midfield, he's moved back to um, outside back, and then you have Gavin Wetzel pushed into center back,
Right.
and then Jordan Griffin's on the outside back. He was on left back, and Nick was on right back. And then Rafael Uzcategui, he's been phenomenal, honestly.
He, I right now have been the most impressed with Raphael
Yeah.
on the season. Just his defensive play. He actually was, I thought, a little bit better today offensively as well,
Mm-hmm.
with his ball distribution. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's been really positive light. I don't like Nick Periano at the back position. He just doesn't fit there. I think
No.
he's a great in that second line in the 4-2-2-2.
Yeah.
He plays really well there as that defensive midfielder, even though he's more of like a winger.
Yeah.
Um, I'm good with that. I think in the second half when you brought those changes on,
Yeah.
you got to see a better quality of Nick Pariano.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, you make the subs. There's a rotation.
Yeah.
You saw a better top. Union 2 go up a man with a late red card by Inter Miami. You get that PK late. Pariano hits the post.
Yeah, and he's been good. He's taken several PKs at this point, either actual just a regular PK or when they've gone to a shootout. He's been pretty good. And that was, you think, okay, here we go. Late PK attempt and also they're up a man. So you think, okay, they have chances here. And it was just against them today. And you did see them come out stronger in that second half. Kevin, CJ, and Oscar all come on. And you did see a little more there, but it was swinging in their direction. They had lots more shots. But again, there were shots, but it's only the ones that go in that matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yep.
soccer. It just wasn't their day. I mean, that was a game. I think Jose talking with us said that chatting with us was the best. This is a game where you're gonna forget about.
Yeah.
It's a nothing. It's a nothing of a game because it was one of those games where they just were not on today. You saw
Yeah.
miscommunication from Eddie and Sal. You
Yeah.
saw
Yep.
Sal was not great on the day.
That was really snake bitten.
He had chances. It just wasn't happening.
No.
You saw so many players today like David Vasquez. Just everybody was off.
I thought Marcus was doing some pretty good things.
Yeah.
He was solid. And, I really liked what I saw with him against Nor'easters. I
Yeah.
thought he looked pretty solid today. And so it was unfortunate that he didn't get a result there, but yeah, Union 2 outshot Miami 23-3 in the end of the day. But again,
That sucks.
that one mistake. And so it's a shame, but they're gonna take this and learn from it.
That's what Ryan said. And,
Yep.
I mean, Ryan brought it up, he even said, look, that play with the goalkeeper late, comes out, basically bulldozes over. That's a penalty.
Yeah.
He's right, but, it doesn't get called. So
Yep.
it doesn't bounce their way that day. But hey, look, they still got plenty more games. And so do the Union.
Yep.
And wrapping up here, Union are back this Wednesday and Saturday. They're at Toronto. I had to think about that for a second. Um, at Toronto on Wednesday, at Dallas, and then Union 2 are at FC Cincinnati.
Yeah, and to note that last night, Bernadeschi and Thompson, both from Toronto, picked up yellows, which will have them they were on accumulation warning, so they are going to be out in the match. And especially Bernadeschi being out, that definitely is favorable. But
But we
again,
also
he
know
had a rough
historically.
time on the road at Toronto. So,
Yeah, so we'll see how that match
well,
goes.
you know where they also had a rough time on the road?
Dallas.
No, I'm saying they'd had a rough time in Montreal. They had a rough time in Atlanta. It's a season of change.
We'll
It's the
see.
year of the snake, change, rebirth, all that, all that. So why not? But hopefully they come out angry and hungry and ready to um
Yeah,
get a result.
we'll see how they bounce back. Oh,
Yeah,
excuse
that's
me.
the thing.
We'll
It's
see how they bounce back. And, look, again, if you would have told us in January where the Union would be right now, I think no one would be complaining. So,
nope.
anyway, thank you for tuning in today. Again, if you're listening, this we're recording Sunday. This will be out tomorrow. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. Hope you're having a safe and wonderful day.
Yep. Yep.
Again, where can people find us at?
So you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, find us on our website, theoneteamweagreeon.com, find us on our socials, which I said before, interact with us because we love hearing from you. We love when you leave us comments and engage with us. So we appreciate everyone who does and people that come up and say hi to us out and about, like at the games. So we appreciate all of you guys listening and interacting with us because, hey, we do it because we love doing this and we hope that you guys are enjoying it. And we always appreciate when we do get those interactions.
Until next time, this has been an all new episode of the One Team We Agree On.
Yeah, make sure if you haven't already to like and subscribe. And you can subscribe to our website too. There's a place on there so you can get anytime we publish articles, you can get it right to your inbox.
Yep. And until next time, I'm Kyle,
I'm Jillian.
and we'll see you at the game.